committee who are here in person. Uh-oh. I'm echoing.
Valerie, a couple pieces of paper. I did the resolution and I realized that you write anything to write.
You have a pen?
I do. I think.
I have a pen, you know.
I just have. Thank you. Thank you.
It doesn't even have the camera.
Susan, I'm promoting you.
How are we doing tech-wise? Getting there? All right, where was I? This is the Community Board 7 Preservation Committee. You are very, very welcome. Our task is to hear about any project that impacts either an individual landmark in the city or a building within the historical districts, of which there are a lot of them. And so that's what brings us all here. As I say, our task is advisory to the Landmarks Preservation Committee. So we will, in all likelihood, take a vote tonight. And we will bring that to, well, full board isn't meeting. I think we'll bring that, depending on the timing. I don't know if you guys have a calendar question with the LPC.
We are not scheduled yet.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes it a little bit easier. We'll see what happens. Yes. Ordinarily, we would go to the full board, bring our recommendations, they would ask their questions. Either vote to support what we recommend or tell us we're crazy and go a different way. So those of you from the community would have input here tonight. We want to hear what the project is, and then we want to hear any input from members of the community, as well as, of course, members of the committee. We then would take our final resolution to the Landmarks Commission when they have their regular hearings on the project. So that said, my name is Kay Karpen, and I am one of the co-chairs of this committee, and along with Madge, who is beaming in from Fisher's Island. So that's the problem with having a meeting in July. So Paige, could you introduce yourself?
I'm an architect. I know many of you there. And I was asked once to just take a theme, just try it out, see if you like being. And as you can see, I've been here for quite a while. And initially I fought against it, but in the end, it has been the most rewarding activity I can say to help our neighborhood. So I'm glad you're all here. Thank you.
With that, Paige.
I'm Klari Neuwelt. I've been on the committee for a while, off and on, but mostly on. And I'm going to be doing if we have a resolution tonight, I'm going to be writing it for us. So although we don't do minutes anymore as we used to, which is a great relief, we use our minutes or our meetings recorded, and the YouTube recording acts as our minutes. Nevertheless, when somebody speaks, we would appreciate it if you identify yourself. If you're affiliated with whoever, let us know. If there may or may not be any reason to end up with that information in a resolution, but it's still helpful. Okay.
Great. We have other members who are, yes, hi.
My name's Adam. I've been on the community board for only a couple months.
Yeah.
I work professionally at the Preservation.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Do we have anybody else who's on Zoom?
Yeah. So Madge is on Zoom.
Can we request that you speak louder for the guys back here?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
We will do our best. We're just looking around at the Zoom. Jessie, do you know if there are other folks besides Madge who are on from the committee who are joining us remotely?
Only Madge, as far as I know. I think Michelle Parker. Hold on.
Michelle? Okay, we'll see. Some folks may be running late.
And does Madge have a waiver for voting?
Yes, I gave it to
Matt?
myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
We're settling back into this hybrid kind of meeting thing. It's a little awkward, but we'll do our best. Here comes some more folks. Okay, now. I believe before we get started, Bernard, you wanted to say a word about, asking about process?
Yes.
I think that's fine.
Thanks for giving me the time.
Wow.
Listen,
My name is Bernard Fall, known as Bernie, longtime resident, 257 Central Park West, hence the interest. I was a board member and president for 7 years in 257 CPW, though now I'm essentially talking about personal capacity, but Adam will probably talk to the board. I'm a little surprised, no, I'm a lot surprised that I have about 4 hours notice about this meeting. The board knew maybe 8 hours before that. So, I mean, this is a democratic. Well, that's when they found out.
Exactly what I.
That's when they found out. So this is,
You
I
mean the
mean,
board of your building?
that's what I mean, board of my building, yes.
We had an open day for your board.
Did anybody give us a notice?
Yes.
To whom did it go to? To whom?
We had reached out to a lot of our neighbors. We had reached out to Douglas Elliman and spoken with Stephen Furman.
When was that?
That was in June, because we had an open house on June 26th where we presented the project. So we reached out to 251 Central Park West, 257, 10 West 86th Street, and then a number of the ground houses. I mean,
There's no point going back. Nobody reached out or nobody seems to. And West 86th Street were surprised. We were surprised. So I appreciate the reach out. I don't want to stay and cut dialogue. But somehow, you know, we have some pretty good people. Douglas Elliman and on board and West 86th Street also. So somehow the reach out never got there. Anyway.
In that.
What?
In West.
Okay, so in any event, I know about this for 4 hours, and the president by board knows about it for 12 hours.
Okay,
So we're kind of taken aback, and I will say, we really don't think we have a lot of information on the project. We know what you sent around, but it doesn't show full dimensions. It doesn't say anything about impacts on a historically residential neighborhood, on street traffic, buses, transport, noise, the mechanicals, and essentially, forgive my back, I'm sorry.
fairness.
Changing, thank you, changing the historical nature of the community. And it's very nice you have a, you know, exalted set of professionals here, you know, ready to go. But the community doesn't think we've had time at all to study this, to react, and to consider impacts positive or adverse. Now, we really think we need more time to study this because we just don't know about it. That's really our proposition.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you for the time.
And we're all gonna hear about the project and let's see. By the end of the presentation, we know more than we do now and see if and as there are questions, there'll be time for members of the community to ask anything you want. We usually do that right after the presentation, after the board members have had a chance to sit through their questions. So hang on to those and we want to hear them.
Okay,
Okay.
I just want to hold on. I just want to share that notice on our behalf was sent out on June 20th. Notices were posted both on our website and our calendar. On July 2nd, it was sent out on our newsletter. And I am aware that Valerie did do an outreach to the community on June 26th. So I just want to make sure that all the postings and notices to the committee went out as it was supposed to.
Was it posted on the street?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just saw one
Yes.
there.
You saw that. The trouble with posting, we require posting on the street, signs to go up in that area, any, you know, the immediate corners and so forth. The trouble is, on the west side, people don't like notices and they tear them down. So it's a constant battle on that. So that's adding to the situation. I apologize on behalf of all west siders.
Is somebody covering the door? Jessie?
I think
Jessie, we'll make sure. Okay. Okay. Val, are you starting us off or what?
Well, no, I think Susie is starting you off. I mean,
Okay.
it just,
Am I speaking to you or?
You're speaking to everybody. please.
So, I mean, if anybody wants to hear better, and I don't know.
We'll try to be nice and loud, and we have 38 folks on Zoom as well.
Are you gonna be sharing screen, Susie, in which
Yeah.
case it'll be on there and there, so. you
We'll
can
throw it up on both.
See one place or the other.
Okay.
And you're Susie Rodriguez, right?
Yep.
With an S-U-S-I.
SUSI or Susan.
Right.
That's what I'm interested. Okay.
Oh, we want to make sure everybody can hear and everybody can see. Good. Right. Good.
Okay, well, it's nice to be here tonight. This is my community board as well, so I'm a neighbor. What you're gonna see is what we presented on the 26th of June to the neighbors who did come. I see a few that are here again, and Bard had at BGC. We had a nice meeting there and shared, and you'll see, I think, answering a number of the questions that you just brought up. And so the project we're discussing, as you well know, is 8 West 86th Street in the red. Here, everybody sees my pointer.
Can we get on those screens?
Will this be shared? Will this deck be shared?
I don't know what the protocol is.
It's being recorded along with so the whole presentation will be. You're welcome to take pictures, but you don't have to, I don't think.
Can we get it on the other screen as well?
You folks in the back here.
No.
This is not working. It's not.
Hold on a second, guys. Jessie, can you throw it on the other screen as well? Is that?
That's why I suggested that it's hard to talk to audiences, so
And largely we should be try to sync us.
I think that's fine.
But we want everybody.
We want everybody to hear.
Can I ask, how many people attended the meeting on the 26th?
I think there were five,
So not too many people.
but everybody was invited. So
Invited.
Okay, we're not gonna discuss that. We can talk about it later. Jessie, can we put the presentation on both screens?
We're working on.
Oh, sorry.
Run the presentation.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, yeah, yelling at you. You're right there.
I will do my best to speak loud. And this is for a proposed study collection building. And with transforming the building to serve Bard. So I'm gonna have Susan speak just briefly. Susan Weber, she's the founder and head of Bard Graduates.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to see such a nice audience tonight. 33 years ago, I founded the Bard Graduate Center as part of Bard College. I myself am a member. I have lived on the Upper West Side most of my life. And I wanted to have the center on the Upper West Side because I thought there was a need for more cultural institutions on the Upper West Side versus the glut of cultural institutions that are on the Upper East Side, frankly. And when we bought the building on 33 years ago, it had been subdivided into 12 or 14 tiny apartments. It was in terrible shape. And we saw the beauty in it. We loved the West 86th Street environment. And we thought this would be the perfect building to start the center. Little did I know that in the first year of being there, we were such a success, we were out of space. So we were fortunate that another building came up on West 86th Street that was owned by the Archdiocese of New York. They were using it, I'm afraid, to shelter pedophile priests. And they sold it to us. And I had to sign a codicil that I would no longer have any abortion counseling in that building, not that Bard Graduate Center does abortion counseling, or do any of black magic, any of the arts of magic, as they put it.
But those you do, right?
Oh, of course. So, we were, Susie Rodriguez, joined the Bard Graduate Center as a consulting architect with the second building. which became the center of our educational institution. We do a master's degree and a PhD in design history, decorative arts, and material culture. We're become the preeminent institution in the world for this study. I have every year between 20 and 25 master's degree students come to us for 2 years of study. Some stay on for a PhD, which is another 3 to 5 years. And there are 65 professionals working in what are now 3 buildings on the block, because we were able to purchase another building. With COVID, our institutional support, which came from places like the Met and the New York Historical Society, they no longer wanted to let our students in because of fear of infection. We are a institution that depends upon object study, and I had never wanted a collection because I thought I would put my money, frankly, and the money we raise into students. And so lo and behold, I had to start thinking about getting objects for my students to study, because the Met wasn't letting us into their collections. The Brooklyn Museum, which is one of our sister institutions, wasn't letting us in. And a building came up for sale, beautiful 8 West. And I thought, my God, that's like fantastic, because there aren't many townhouses left on West 86th Street. And it's in the right vicinity, and it will fulfill some of our needs. In the meantime, life for me is often serendipitous. We were given a incredible collection by a famous restoration architect named Byron Bell and his wife Susan Bell, who worked at the Museum of Natural History her whole life. And they have a collection of, I don't know, close to 6,000 objects that they have endowed to us, as well as it comes with a dowry. And we have also over the years gotten deaccessioned objects from the Met, from Brooklyn, from collectors all over the city. And we need a space for students to be able to study it. So 8 West came on the market. I knew the family. My dogs used to go to that vet. And we finally contracted the building, and Susie and her team started working on it, on how to make this building into a study center. We think we have been excellent members of West 86th Street. We have provided security with 24-hour guards in all of our buildings on West 86th Street over the years. What had a lot of problems from the high school and some other constituents. And we're very excited about having yet another building on West 86th Street. And Susie, who's going to tell you now about what she's envisioning for this building.
Hey, Susan, thank you very much.
I also should tell you, I live on Central Park West. I'm in the neighborhood.
Okay, good, me too. All right, not on Central Park West. No. Okay, Susie.
Okay, so Susan has introduced Bard, many of you know, but what the project that we're here to talk about is how to take the building at 8 West and restore it and transform it on the interior with an addition on the top and the back to house this growing collection. And so it's really, it's not about expanding the student body, it's about enhancing the quality of their experience. And so as Susan said, the Bells have this crazy townhouse downtown. It's 9.5 feet wide, and it's filled with the most fantastic objects. Beautiful, beautiful. So, and then they do have some also up in Woodstock, and so they given these to Bard to be integrated into Bard's collection for the study of the decorative arts. So this is just showing the existing collection in yellow. You're not meant to have to read all of it, but from textiles to basketry, et cetera, these are the existing collections that Bard has. And then the Bell collection will add to that.
Why don't our screens match?
They're on a slight lag. Yeah, there's sort of,
There's nothing we can do. unfortunately.
Oh,
it does come in, it's just one. So maybe I'll talk to that one and then that one and then push. Would that work for everybody?
That
No,
sounds-
now they're together.
Okay.
So forget
Good.
that. This just is a diagram to show what's going into the building. The objects at the centerpiece, like a cabinet of curiosities in a lot of ways, with faculty and students and scholars, for research and just student exhibition. This isn't a public building for Bard. This is an internal building for Bard where they all will go to study and work together and create these great graduates who are going to be collection managers and curators, et cetera, throughout the country. So this is just a foreshadowing. I'll get into a lot more detail. Some of the questions you asked of them, you'll see about the evolution of the block. But in just a nutshell, the ground level, the entrance into student exhibitions on 2 floors, oversized collection in the rear yard expansion, and the incoming collections at the lower level. And then above, 2 classrooms looking out toward 86th Street with 3 research areas, and then a reconfigured rear yard. It pulls it in, but then there's a 1-story addition.
Hold on 1 second. Klari, can you hit that X that's on the black closed captioning thing? I think.
where's the X?
Participant of the neighborhood
Black label.
closed caption, I think,
But
at the bottom of the screen.
it's not
No.
here.
The X is,
Okay, you see the black box?
yeah, oh, this,
Okay, there's a little X to the right. Thank you. Super. Okay, because this is the stuff we really want.
And you'll see this
Okay.
again, this is just an
Yeah.
introduction.
Got it.
In gray is the preservation of the existing building, and then the white is either reconfiguration, and then the 1-story addition with the rooftop mechanical enclosure, and then the oversize in the rear yard.
Can I ask, and the existing,
I think it'd be best if I go through the
Yeah,
presentation,
that's
and then after that, you can ask all the questions you want.
to make that bigger for a moment, it's hard to see, no?
I can't make it, I can maybe later, we can figure out how to do that.
If you like.
Can you go back 1 second? I just want to see in the blue is where the addition is.
Well, I'll show you again, so you'll be really clear at the end, and if you're not, you can ask me and we'll go back. But I think it's just really helpful because a lot of your questions will be answered by the presentation.
Good.
If that's okay with you. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
So this is the actual, I want to get rid of. There's some way to get rid of.
Somebody has to reach up and just tap the screen. I think that's for the Zoom.
I'm not tall enough. Okay, well,
I don't know that.
what do we want to do here? I just wanted to get rid of the people. How do we do that?
There should be a little thing to. On one side.
That's my
All right. Put up with it.
No.
Hit it again. Ouch.
All right, we'll see what to do. We might have to move it to a better spot. Okay, so this is a photograph of the building today on the right, and then this is the 3-dimensional model we've made to study the design.
Right.
And so this is showing a section through that, which is another version of what we showed you with all the color on it, which I'll get into the modifications and restoration work we're gonna do, and then the addition, which is a 1-story addition here and a rear yard addition here, okay, with the rooftop mechanical. And then I'm gonna describe in detail the restoration of the existing facade and that front part of the building. Okay, so as a little background, and we've been working with Higgins and Kreisbart, and Ward is here who will help tell the story of how we tried to inform ourselves about the history of the neighborhood and the block, which is kind of cool, I think, to learn about. As you know, it's part of the Central Park West Historic District. And this is a block photo. Now, 86 is at the top, so it's sort of a little bit rotated. But it shows what it was in 1902, the Sanborn map. And then the only development at that time really of substance was in 1887, the block of townhouses on 85th Street. And for those of you, the red dot is the site where 8 is today. And then a little bit later in, this is sort of compilation, but right at the turn of the century, you started to see the buildings along Central Park West come in 1906, and then sort of bookended on Columbus, the other larger scale building. And then the whole series of townhouses in the 1907. So then right quickly after that, in 1908, Taylor and Levi did 8 West. And this was always a one-off. It wasn't part of any of these blocks. And in that case, it was for a doctor and his family. And then you can see the completion almost, except of the block here. The doctor who commissioned this was a syphilis specialist. So we're not sure whether that explains some of the distance from everything else, but in any case, that was how the block started to emerge. Then quickly in the next, say, 15 to 20 years, there was demolition of some of those townhouse blocks with the larger buildings in 1925, 29, and 31. And that in a way represents pretty much the public face of the building today, but it all happened in the early part of the 20th century. And so here is a photograph from 1908, and Higgins and Quaisbarth went to Avery, and we tried to do as much research in terms of trying to understand the building. And what we found interesting, where you see when it was built as sort of a sole standalone building with the empty lot and then the service drive to the east, is that the design, the original design, the front piece all had the finished brick and was really complete. And then after that, the side well, then it's all a common brick. So its design was really partial in the front being kind of very finished, because you do see the side of it as it turns the corner because of the side yard there. And then just for information, this is the original plans that subsequently has been cut up into many different units. It's unfortunate, a lot was removed. There's very little historic evidence of things, but it was, as you came in, entrance hall, doctor's office on the ground floor, and then a private residence above. I don't know if you want to say anything about it. So, what? Yep. So about this, and then I'll go to here.
Sure. Hi, Ward Dennis with Higgins Quaisbarth Partners. We're the historic preservation consultants on the project. Taylor and Levi, who are the architects, these are some examples of some of their other buildings. You can see that they did a wide range of eclectic designs over a period of many years. I think one of the things that characterizes their buildings is the picturesque qualities of the buildings and the way that they resolve the buildings to the roofscapes and create these very interesting roofscape elements along the street. And we see that in our building. If you look at remember back to the historic photo, and you'll see it later, the balustrade that used to sit atop the building. Also the attention to detail, Susie mentioned that side elevation, but really that whole front pavilion part of the building was originally seen in 3 dimensions. It was not just a row house front. So part of what we're going to show in terms of the enlargement of the building respects that the original design of the building and retains that and restores the front of the building.
And this building is one of their earlier ones.
Yeah.
And all their archives are at Avery, which is interesting. Anyway, this was a photograph from when the district was designated in 1990. It wasn't looking so good then. But shortly after that, in 1996, Plattmeyer DeBell, who many of you probably know, the firm does a lot of great preservation work, had done a plan. Some of it was implemented and some was. There's a new copper cornice. Some of the new windows, albeit though they were different than the original windows. As you can see, the double hung were replaced by the casement windows. They did some AC sleeves, but cut into the historic brick. And there was actually a few more done here. They tried to remove them, but the patching wasn't really that effectively done. And then they were going to sort of try to return the front entrance into what its original was, but that never was done. So this is today, as you know, it's interesting because it's a 4-story building where all the other townhouses pretty much on the block and on 85th Street are 5. So interesting that they didn't do that at the time. Anyway, but you see it between the two larger scale buildings. And again, the unique condition where you actually do see the building turn the corner and it's 3 dimensions. So here, just a little more, a few more images just to be clear about its condition. Just to go back to putting it in the context of BARD and programmatically what it is. 18, as Susan said, the original building built in 1907 has been restored and is the primary gallery administration building. So when you go to the exhibits, and I hope you just went to the Sonia Delaney, it's so beautiful. And it was just there and closed. And then 36, 38, which I worked with Susan and her team on at different times to put the 2 buildings together, is their academic library and public program building. And so the new one will be for the proposed study collection. And so again, Ward's going to just give some context for, as we're going to landmarks, the appropriateness of things that have been similar to this.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to the bar buildings that Susie worked on before, there are a number of institutions across the city that have expanded into former row houses, mansions, other types of residential buildings. And these are just a few examples here. The Spence School on the Upper East Side, Friends Seminary downtown, and also on the Upper East Side, St. David's. In most of the cases, and as is the case here, most of this enlargement and program intervention that happens is largely hidden from view. The rooftop additions are minimally visible. The rear extensions do a lot in terms of program, but do not have a big impact on the public view of these buildings. St. David's being an exception to that, in that on the bottom right, in that the extension of the building is visible over the side street. But what we're proposing here, I think, fits very comfortably within historically what the Landmarks Commission has seen and approved on similar institutional interventions around the city.
So what we'd like to do is show you in more detail what the proposed design is. Starting with the restoration. The front facade of the building, the brick will be repointed in some of these cases, replaced where the wrong kind of brick was put in. There's opportunities to harvest below the sidewalk level, as well as around the corner in that light well as it turns. So they're really bringing the facade back to its great, past glory is really the intention. And I think probably all the buildings of BGC have indicated that, because that's really what they're about, the decorative arts, material culture, and how important that is to the health of our cities. And this is a very small building, but with lots of different materials. So the limestone accents will all be, again, repaired, cleaned, and repointed. The metalwork, we had actually an interesting conversation today with Landmarks West and about whether the original metalwork is all white. And this is now black, and so is all the metalwork on the block. So whether it should be white or black, but restoring the metalwork, which is in terrible condition right now, and we can finally determine whether it's black or white. But right now we thought if we bring it back to its original, it's white. Then the repair of the slate roof. In some cases, there are some pieces that will need to be replaced and matched where they're chipped or fallen out. And then the dormers are really, they're all wood construction and trim, and they'll all need to be either pieces replaced and certainly repainted and repaired. So I think the things that will change the most, and I think in many cases really for great, it will be great results, is this is the existing door. And one of the things to comply with code in today's world is to make the building accessible. So to be able to, there's a light well, there's a well along here, but it's to modify the front so that it drops the entry to grade. And in doing that, we're proposing to recreate really the original entrance, and with the fan window transom above and doors very similar to the original design, just a little bit slightly taller. And then where we need a second means of egress here to the right, we have added a door, and so you'll be able to come directly out from a new stair inside for proper egress, and try mimicking the casement windows in the top half of the door and the rest solid. So, and that's all below the height of the fence. So here, then the window replacement, as you can see from the original photograph, they're double hung windows on the top 2 floors. Then there's a transom and then casement or doors on the 2nd floor. And then I just went over the lower level. So we're proposing to recreate the double hung just as they were originally reintroduced.
But somebody's saying that they can't hear. And over there, I see them. Is it automatic? But there's no apparently they cannot hear.
That's just a Zoom message. That's not
It's
somebody's
okay.
message.
It's because it's coming from my computer. It's fine.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you, though. Is everybody hearing me okay? Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay. And then the last part of the sort of restoration piece is the reintroducing the balustrade straight. We haven't quite decided which it is. But that thing at the top of the building, and which you can see is really an important feature to completing the building. So reintroducing that to both the front and to the side to the east. And so, and I turn to Ward to just sort of talk about that role in Georgian Revival building.
Yeah, we often see in Georgian Revival buildings, these types of balustrades at the top, or balustrades at the top of the building, and very common feature in this period of architecture. I think interestingly, if you look at Knickerbocker Club on the far right, they have a penthouse up there, and the balustrade serves to screen the visibility of that penthouse. And similarly, when viewed from the street, the balustrade will largely obscure the view of rooftop additions. So when you're looking at this building from across the street and down the street, you will largely be seeing it in its restored historic condition.
I'm just not clear, when you're restoring that, is there a,
We're gonna have time for questions.
what is it about that? I don't understand. Is it just the surface or is there a full level? And that's just how the outside looks? Is it like an interior and an exterior?
We're gonna
Let's
just,
finish the.
I think you need to
presentation.
let me finish the presentation. This
apologies,
is the
but-
restoration. There's quite a bit more to go, so there's a lot to answer.
Lots of information to come.
Yeah, so this is about the restoration of the building, the front facade, the side facade, the brick, all the details, and adding the baluster. So, so this is from directly across the street, right, to the west of the canopy, with 6 feet eye level. This is a photograph of the existing building, and then this is with montaging the modifications to it. And that's what you will see. So now for the addition to the top and to the rear yard. This is the existing building. And so I'm going to go in steps so you'll see how it's being enhanced. So here we're going to fill in the side yard so it preserves intact the front, you called it the sort of front, but I can't remember the word you used, but as it turns the corner, then we fill this area in, the common brick will remain. And then the reconfiguration of the back. So removing this piece it's not all aligned with the floors above, so it's difficult to use and make accessible. So removing that piece, cutting it back, preserving the 70% and doing a cleaner back facade, and then the one-story addition on the roof with the mechanical enclosure. So now it's it's set back about 15 feet or so from the front, and you'll see what that means in terms of visibility. And then the last piece to the addition is the rear yard. And that is filling in here. The height of it's a little lower than the tree behind. And it actually serves to block the service alley somewhat from the rest of the donut area. And so this describes the building that will be preserved, the reconfiguration of the back, the addition on the top. So it's a little tighter this way, a little taller this way, and then putting up to the 23 feet allowable for community facilities. It puts the rear yard here and a lower level for the collection manager. Just facts, it's 70% lot coverage, which is allowed. It's a completely as of right construction. It's 23 foot high, as I mentioned, in the rear yard. It's not quite that high because the building behind is about 9 feet. It's ground level, 9 feet higher than ground on 8. And the single story addition rooftop with the rooftop mechanic that's enclosed. Then the existing building is about 8,100 square feet with the FAR of 3.19. Allowable there is far greater. It's 10. And with an addition of about a little under 4,000 feet to get the FAR to 3.53. So this is the drawing I showed earlier. Just now that you sort of understand a little bit more, this is the program again, dropping the front door in, modifying the floor in white. You can see everything else that's in dark is the existing structure to remain, the facade to remain, student exhibitions, classrooms facing the street, research areas for these 3 floors, and then small collection workroom space for faculty and staff, and then the collection, oversized collection here at the rear with a green roof on the top. It's not accessible. It doesn't align with the floors. It's just really, I hope would be beautiful green roof to look at. And the collections at the lower level and this more mechanical. And I won't go into the details. This is the same information in color and plan. Unless you want me at some point to go through that, but I think it's probably more detailed than you want. So I think important to understand what's in the rear yard and why. It's not a gym. That's usually a common use of the rear yard for schools. But in this case for BART, there's a number of oversized collection pieces. There's the canoe, there's this GUR that the bells have. But one of the most interesting pieces is actually the textiles. And BART itself already has a really beautiful collection of textiles, but they're really hard to see because they are rolled up and folded. And this is an opportunity to create in that rear yard expansion a way to see the textiles and also to house the growing collection of furniture. And then the again, the roof of that is a green roof. It had, you can see the yellow is, for those of you who live next door, that's the service alley. And then next to it is the rear yard proposal. And the idea, since it's at the end of the block, for many, it will block seeing some of the, activity in the service alley, and to create a green roof that's a sedum roof, which should be really beautiful and low maintenance. And then just for context, I think importantly, the 18 was approved with a rear yard expansion and addition in 1995 by the Specter Group. And then in 1998 and 2008, both 38 first and then 36 were approved by Landmarks with a rear yard and then rooftop addition. So just to really come to closure on what it is. Here you see it from across the street. This is obviously a 3D model. And this is if you cut the section through the alley and you see the preservation of this front pavilion. I think that's what you called it before, the front pavilion. And this is the existing condition. This is the idea of the removal of this back piece, to pulling it in a bit, the 1-story addition, that sort of filling in that little court and this. And then the articulation of this is really about weaving together old and new. So the preservation and restoration of this front piece, some of the articulation of weaving through all the way to the back, using bricks similar to the existing, and then the existing common brick, and then terracotta volume here. And one of the reasons coming up with terracotta, it's a lighter weight material, it's beautiful, compatible with brick. And then we found this great, Christopher Gray was an amazing writer, and he wrote this piece in 2003, and it's about these 2 buildings that broke into block. And we thought that was a really, different. It was an interesting tie, and the use of the terracotta in many buildings. And this one actually across the street from me on 75th Street, but the use of terracotta. And then finally, just the last piece is about its visibility of the addition. Something I know that's very, very, very important. So these diagrams, and then we have the mock-up that was built that Landmarks asked us to do. So as you walk on 86th Street, really the only visibility will be because of that 10-foot service drive. And so you can see probably for about 70 feet, you'll get some view in there. And then maybe about 17 feet, you get a little glimpse from 85th Street. So these will get larger in a minute, but these little diagrams directly on, you don't see anything. The balustrade is obviously effective, both making the building look better and returning it to the original, but it also blocks the penthouse addition. Is you start to see right as you're coming, maybe it's number 3, you're about 10 feet in, you see probably the most of it, and then quickly it starts to go away. And then on the 5 and 6, when you're going west, you really only see the balustrade. And then here, this is the existing, and then we strategically stepped this all back so that you wouldn't see it. It was intentional to try to make sure that it had its least impact on the front facade, its effect on the public way. And then from 85th Street, again, it really blocks, except you can see this view through the alley and a little bit of there's a little sliver that you would see here for about maybe 17 feet or so. And so then here is the proposed design. This is today. And then this is montage, all the improvements from the street. And then you can go see this yourself, but you probably have if you live right in the neighborhood. This is a drawing that Landmarks gave us, and this is what they requested for us to do for the mock-up. And so this is a diagram of what was built. So the balustrade, and then the volume of the first floor, and then the height of the enclosure for the mechanical. And because of this, the light well here, it couldn't be constructed. So but you'll see how we showed it. So this is looking sort of 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the views from across Central Park West, 2, 3, 4, all across the top here. And then this is sort of the binocular view of what you see. Yeah, this is different than when we showed you, because we hadn't built this yet.
Yeah.
And then here, the same, a little bit closer in as you go west. And so this is really where you see it most. Again, we just put the dotted line complete what you'd be able to see that we couldn't build. And then here, just again, the sort of full thing taken from the street and the binocular view from this location 4. And then here, 5, 6, and 7. And I think that's it.
It's just one basic.
Oh, I think we're done, so I don't,
Yeah, so I'll take on from here. If you don't mind, we're going to have questions from the committee, and then we're going to open that up to anybody. Questions, comments, and then we'll do discussion among the committee, trying to figure out what to do. Okay.
Okay, when you're ready to have the public speak, please let me know, because I have someone that has been waiting since the beginning.
Online.
Yes, thanks.
I'll let you know. Thanks, Jessie.
Oh, okay. So I'm Klari Neuwelt, I'm a member of the committee, and my first set of questions anyway, there may be some more and certainly some comments later. A couple things I'm not clear on. The first floor rear yard addition, does that go to the rear lot line or?
Yes.
I thought so, okay. I think I understand from a zoning point of view why that is permissible, but I'm not sure everybody else does. Can you just say briefly why you can do that as opposed to a 30-foot rear yard setback for the whole rear facade?
so as a community facility, which would be a school, which part it is, you're allowed to build in the rear yard up to 23 feet. And that's allowed in height, yeah.
Yeah.
And
To the full depth.
to the full depth of that, just up to 23 feet. And I think, it's
No more than one story.
no more than one story. You can't like put two in there. And I think intended originally, for gymnasiums or auditorium, the ones that are the other area, the lecture halls.
Okay, thanks. I think we mostly know that, but some other people here may not. We had on the rear yard thing, we had a communication to our committee from a member of the public. I think I remember his name, but it doesn't matter. About a week ago, about the removal of a tree that we understood as a tree maybe removed already, but in the existing rear yard. Can you just tell us what the story is on that tree?
There's a really big tree that is on the neighbor's property that's invading both this. I was Doug was here, but anyway, it's breaking the retaining wall of 8, and it's also breaking into the I don't know if any of the neighbors on 85th Street, but it's looking a little scary. So I think that the neighbors on 85th Street initiated a request to have them remove this tree because that it was starting to lean and break into the retaining wall. So that's.
So is Bard doing any?
It's not Bard's tree.
I understand that, but if the branches extend into Bard's property, then Bard could remove the branches.
It's
Who's
less
doing it.
It's it's not the branches, it's actually the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
So there's been conversation and supposedly the neighbors were going to be removing it, but it hasn't happened.
Right, and it's been some months, a neighbor on 85th Street.
Then it's the COO.
The tree is on 85th Street. I don't know the exact number because I don't have my map in front of me. And the next door
It's
neighbor to that, I think it's like 19 and 21, but so the neighbor to 21, if I'm getting it right, asked them to remove the tree. And they agreed to remove the tree. They had people in, they were getting quotes. That was several months ago and nothing has happened. So as far as we know, the intent of that owner is to remove the tree. But again, it's on
Anyway,
the
it's not Bard's issue,
Not your
and
tree.
but we can respond to our community member if we have not already, which is
Okay.
one thing we try to do. So Susie, the one thing that I was really unclear about, I did a very professional presentation. We appreciate that. I will say that gratuitously that my husband in a completely different context is working on a project where he keeps saying to me, balustrade. And I keep saying, no, you can say balustrade, you can say balustrade, but you don't say balustrade. And he's not getting it.
No, sorry, didn't hear that.
Several times. What I don't follow at all, I'm sorry to say, is this side yard infill or whatever you're doing in the side yard. Can you just explain that a little more?
Yeah.
Oh, but before you even do that, one more question. Who owns the service alley thing? Is that? So none of that Circus Alley is part of the property. But you do have a light well,
Yes,
and
it's
so
just
it's
the
the
side.
light well that you're gonna be doing something with.
Filling
Just
it.
explain that a little more.
Let me try to find it.
And while you're looking, to put it a different way, is if this work goes through, is the eastern facade now going to be entirely flush with the barred property lot line?
A little in some of it. Okay, here. So just diagrammatically, see this little recess here? That's gonna be
Are you
filled
going to summer? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right there, the range,
Where are you wondering?
right
Little
down
green.
in here. I'll try to.
right there.
It's got a lag. You see this little green rectangle down here?
Yeah.
So that's being filled.
And is that the same as what you're showing us?
It's all just different views of the same thing.
So it would be full height.
Full height, yes. And then you see. So it's this green area, it's getting into real details, it's set back about a foot, as well as the yellow. And then the rear yard, which I'll just go to, because I think that's easier to show you. Sorry. Okay, so this is flush. This is existing, right?
Yeah.
Flush with the lot line. This is the common brick that's also existing, and that's flush with the lot line. This piece here is flush with a little reveal. And then this is set back probably about 8 inches or so. And this is set back about 6 inches, and this is about, 12 inches. So it's just trying to provide clarity of the original historic piece. This is not a view you'll ever see, but it's trying to just describe, because the building 257, sits this, way in front of this.
Okay, one more question for me, and I'm not sure if it's for Susie or for somebody else. You said this is not to be a public building, and I understand the gallery is different building, and it wasn't. The Lonnie exhibit was fabulous, which I could see. But you also referred to student exhibitions, so I'm unclear about the use of this building in terms of student exhibitions and the extent to which the public will use the building.
There will be no public use of this building. That doesn't mean that people can't make an appointment to come and study our collections, or if we have something, a scholar might want to come and visit. But it is solely for faculty and students, and there will be a student exhibition area, but it's sort of playpen of our students to learn to make exhibitions.
Thanks, that's all I have for now.
Thanks.
Madge, hands up.
Yes, I'm still a little confused about the side of the building, the east side of it. Is it getting closer to the building next to it? And how much
No,
closer?
It can't. There's a lot line. So it's being preserved where it is on the lot line. And then the lower extension is flush, and the pieces are slightly back. But we can't go over the lot line.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Madge. H.
I've had a wonderful tour, and you're to be congratulated on looking at the minutiae of how the whole building is connected. And mine comes from Landmark West, because we were looking at it this afternoon. The only thing that I'm going to be a bit of a stickler is the main entrance. And I know that when you look at the historic element of it, it has a much more robust appearance, with the fan light appears to be set further back. And yes, there are more steps, and I'm assuming you're going to be leveling those or making it easy for people to enter. But something is just lost to me because it looks not quite part of the building the way it is in the picture.
It might be
The
the
historic-
rendering, we're intending it to put it in the same plane as the original.
Everything will be
Yeah.
going back that way, because
Yeah,
I
the
walk
only
by there.
difference is the steps, that there
Right.
may be steps.
So
But so
they're
the
gonna-
door is a little longer,
Okay,
taller.
all right.
Yeah.
That's my,
You know, it
Two
was the
cents.
question you asked earlier today about the thickness of the windows. I mean, the intention is to
right,
make them elegant and as they were originally.
okay. I
So-
live 2 blocks away, so I'm gonna have a deck chair and, you know, no. joking.
Watch the whole.
No, I mean,
Congratulations.
I know Bard and we take a lot of pride in doing things,
No, I think you handled it
you know,
very
trying
well.
to do it well. I mean, it's embarrassing when you put stuff up there that looks kind of like bad rendition of the old stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions from the committee?
Me. Michele.
Okay. Michelle's here. Yes,
Yeah.
Michele.
Michelle, you put it.
Okay, I got it. So, hi. When does this project book go before LPC? And maybe I should have asked, was anything approved at staff level yet?
We do not have any approvals at staff level. A lot of the restoration work that Susie described would be eligible for the staff level permit. We don't have a set date for landmarks yet because we need to get a community board resolution. So depending on when we get that, I mean, that would probably, likely it's probably going to be one of the early meetings in September.
Yeah, our meeting is on September 3rd.
3rd.
Yes.
Just adding, I did speak to Gregory at LPC and did inform him about this project going forward and letting him know that the resolution would be ready after that meeting. So LPC is
Thank
aware.
Thanks, Jess. That's great. When will the project begin? When are you going to start this?
What's your guess?
Probably in about a year.
How long will it take?
But
And
they're
it will take how
estimating-
long? I'm sorry.
Estimating 2 to 3 years, depending upon structural problems. It's a very old building, and until we really get in, you really never know what you're facing.
But
Yeah,
I would say 2.
Yeah. Are the
Yes.
maybe I missed this. Are the dormers wood?
Yeah.
Yes.
They are wood? Okay. And just one other thing, I walked to the site today and I stared at your presentation for about an hour. And then I walked to the site today and I don't know how you're gonna fit the trucks that have to do this work into that alleyway. I mean, perhaps that's not part of what we're gonna consider, but there is actually a rooftop on in the alleyway,
Yeah.
which would completely limit your ability to move trucks in and out. But maybe that's not, you know,
Alleyway is on the neighboring property, so probably it would not be part of the construction.
You know, just
sequence.
to drop some, to do repair work, et cetera, they'll need to have some drops
Yes.
in that alleyway.
You won't really have access to the alleyway. Our building.
Okay, we're gonna have questions now from y'all.
wait, I'm not finished. I'm on the committee.
In a moment. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
thank
Michelle.
you. I want to know how many windows of the neighboring property will lose whatever ability they have to look out their windows. You know, how many windows will be blocked? Versus, and
No, no windows are blocked.
okay,
There are windows that will have less distant view of the on 2 floors here, you can see.
Uh-huh.
Right, these in their inner court. But the setback, so these windows remain unaffected.
And most of those windows, we
And-
learned from our neighbors at 10, are,
The stair,
stair and service.
Okay,
except there's somebody who has an office here.
Not at 257.
No, we're talking about Jen.
I think it's a mischaracterization. There's at least on the front apartment, the A line, there's at least 2 windows, the kitchen, and then there's one in the maid's room.
But we're not covering them up.
Well, it's obstructing the view out of those, clearly. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, in plans.
It would be good if we had had a guarantee to use, but we don't.
See the, this is your inner court. So for these 2 levels here,
right.
that's the view, yes.
Okay. Nothing's blocked, but there may be some windows that have a more obstructed view now with the new project.
Calling everybody.
Just saying.
Yeah, nothing, nowhere to be until tomorrow morning. So, but we're gonna do it in an organized way. Once we get the, done. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm finished, I think. Thank you.
You asked about landmarks. We don't have any approved, but we have met with them a number of times.
Yeah.
So we met with Sarah and we met with her staff, Sarah once and the staff another couple of times just to go over everything. So,
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There'll be more meetings. Yeah.
Thank you.
I forgot to ask about the material of the door. It's a pair of doors, right?
At the front,
At the front, right, the new front doors.
I believe they'll be,
Metal or wood?
I think we have to get into the detail, but I think originally they're wood. So that's the idea, that they're wood.
Okay,
The one thing that we want to make sure, back to Paige's point, is that the sight lines don't get too funky. So that's the one thing that metal can provide and still, be painted, etc. So we just want to make sure that we balance that and we'll work with the staff.
If I can just raise my hand, I would not try to improve on some of the materials that you may use and to keep it the way it was originally constructed.
Right.
the one other question I have, because I have noticed that you were showing white metalwork in the proposal and the slides and and currently black, which is we see more typically.
Yeah.
Is there any history at LPC or any discussions you've had so far with staff or with Sarah Carroll about white versus black metalwork? It's very striking.
Yeah, it is interesting, and when Paige brought it up earlier today, I had, when I've been walking back and forth there a lot, and I was thinking the same thing, and so I think we need to consider whether maybe black might be easier to maintain.
Historically, the metalwork you can see in the photo on the left, the historic metalwork was white.
Yeah.
And then this came up with Landmarks West today. I think we're certainly willing to think about, does it make sense to change that to black? It's more consistent with what's on the street. I know there was,
because I couldn't join Landmark West, their exploration of your project. But I've been on the phone. You get the prize for having the longest phone calls about paint color. We came to no conclusion. Sean will get back to you with what we think is going to, he wants to, we're gonna walk all of the buildings around that have the same type of railing to get an indication, because this is your, as I think Sean put it, this is the entrance to our historic district, is this building when you get off the bus or on the bus. And so for some reason, this has caught fire to make sure that we don't, because there are more buildings that are gonna have to have the same upgrade you're proposing now too. So we wanna make sure we get it right, that's all. We won't bug you. I'm not gonna call you every 10 minutes, but just give us a couple days to let the dust settle and we can then give you our full answer, okay?
You'll get ours tonight.
Yeah.
I know they're too speedy.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna leave it there for the committee. I assume we're all reasonably informed and our questions have been laid. I may have something to say later. but I think it's important to hear from members of the community. And let me just say that the purpose of this committee, the preservation committee, there are things that we're concerned about. I don't mean we're concerned about everything, but there are things that are our business to be concerned about. There are other things that are not. That does not mean that the community board as a whole doesn't care about it. So typically there are questions that come up that during the process of construction and so forth, trucks coming in. These are all very important to the community board as a whole. They don't have anything much to do with the preservation thing. So you're welcome to ask anything, say anything, but there are some things that we'll pay more attention to than others. So let me just take you first. I'm going to take a few questions here, then I'm going to come right over to you. Okay? Yes, we're going to.
Okay, remember that we have people online as well.
Jessie, we're gonna first start with a few questions here, and then we can move online if that's okay. And then we'll come back to the group that's waiting patiently.
Thank you.
As well. Oh, yeah. Yes, I heard about that. I'm so sorry. Do you mind if we
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Hi. I'm so sorry about the your experience with COVID, but do you want to speak first?
Sharing so we can.
Yeah, we can stop sharing. We may have to get back to that if there are particular questions.
you're on.
You'd like to, Jessie?
Oh, I think
Yeah, Jessie, Anyapan?
Yes, I just promoted him.
Great. Okay,
He's okay, he's there.
okay, great.
I don't know what happened there, but can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I apologize. I am kicking myself for not being there today, but I am sick and I don't want to get you guys sick.
Thank you.
So if you can bear with me for just a few minutes here, I think this is really important stuff. This is a really big project. We're a very big neighbor next door. We want this process to be conducted right, and we want it to be a productive relationship from the get-go up front. So if you will bear with me as I share some feedback on the process, on what members of our community are saying so far, and I just wanted to help organize these thoughts so it doesn't become a free-for-all. So just first of all, in terms of process, I mean, obviously, I think everybody here knows that we're a building with over 200 residents, 70 plus units. We're just a few feet from 8 West 86th. We have 22 specific lines right behind me here that immediately abut the property. Some of them are obviously on higher floors, some are on lower floors. These units, for the most part, whether this is in the purview of this hearing or not, we're here to share feedback. These units will be heavily impacted by this project. And the range of that will run from a fully obstructed view, from a partial obstructed view, to a significant reduction in light. And we need to be honest with ourselves. These are apartments that have a Central Park West address, but are facing the back and are highly reliant on natural light, the little natural light that they do get. And a lot of that is going to be attenuated and obstructed. And then in other cases, there are many shareholders who are concerned and residents who are concerned about the increase in mechanical noise and HVAC noise, as much as that, may or may not be mitigated. The HVAC equipment is obviously going to be non-residential HVAC equipment. It's not going to be residential. We've heard feedback from residents at 10 West 86th who've heard feedback on some of the other barred mechanical units that have been installed. So there are some concerns about noise. But let me come back to process for a second, because I think this is really important, and we really need to think about the tenor of this conversation and how we move forward as a neighbor that's a few feet away. I am the president of the board, and I'm involved in tons of stuff with this building. We were in front of this committee 2 years ago for our roof deck project. So we're extremely familiar with the process, the posting requirements, how the mock-up is supposed to work. et cetera, et cetera. So I'm, rather than sort of arguing about some of that stuff, I just want to offer up a few observations. The first is, from a process perspective, I first learned about this yesterday in detail from a board member at 10 West 86th. His name is Clayton Hemmer. Technically on Tuesday, an email was sent to Lori Townsend at Douglas Elliman about this project, not by anybody directly involved in the project, but rather by the board members at 10 West 86th. A reference was made earlier to a conversation with Steve Furman. In all the years we've worked with Steve Furman, Lori and Steve are inseparable professionally. So when I called Lori yesterday to try to help me disseminate information about this to our building, she knew nothing about this. And she sits next to Steve and works with Steve and has worked with Steve for years. So it's really important that we are clear about what was provided, what was not provided. The second thing I want to note is that the residents of 10 West 86 were invited, I don't know the exact date, but sometime around June 20th or so to this meeting on June 26th. My understanding from a direct board member is that they were provided notice of this both in their mailboxes and over email. I have surveyed every staff member in this building. I have surveyed our super. Obviously, I spoke to Lori at Douglas Elliman yesterday, and I've asked over 20 different unit shareholders, including the entire board of this building, of which I'm a part, and we have a 5-member board, and nobody knows anything about this project. So, I think it's really important that I get that, those basics out of the way up front, and then that we then address how to productively move forward with our concerns about the project. I think, if I can just finish my thoughts real quick. So,
Well,
just
we're hearing a lot of stuff we've already heard.
No, but I wonder, just you have a lot of questions, so it would be good to address them maybe.
Let me finish.
Yeah, we're a few feet from you. I think we should ask her questions. The next thing I want to comment on really quickly is this mock-up that's up there. It's possible that LPC requirements may have changed or been communicated differently, but when we did our mock-up for our roof deck, which is a very minor project in comparison, on the roof of our 12th floor, and only visible from parts of the park, we were specifically told in gruesome detail that the mock-up had to show full dimensionality, not just height, but width and length. I was on 85th Street today and on 86th, looking through our beautiful big alleyway, and this mock-up, which I can see from my bedroom and many people in these 22 lines can see, 22 units can see, only shows height. So I have an open question, which we will communicate to LPC as well, about why a mock-up should only include height, when the fact is that length, width, height, and depth all impact the amount of skyway that will be obstructed when you're looking from 85th and 86th Street. And there will be skyway that is obstructed. Beyond that, I just want to, there will be some other residents here who will speak up in a second, but I'm getting, obviously, including myself, I'm getting a lot of feedback just about, people are worried about what the impact, because they learned about this yesterday and today, they want to understand what the impact of this project will be on the historic fabric of this immediate neighborhood, right? We have this beautiful 1900 townhouse. We're a 1906 building. People have only ever been used to a residential use nearby. Those of us who live in the back units are actually, we love this beautiful big tree, by the way. It's part of this historic fabric. It's part of the streetscape. It's part of our yard. And people are very worried about, what happens to the light in their apartments, what happens to their quality of life, what happens from a noise perspective from all the new mechanical equipment that's going to come up, what happens to the greenscape. This is a landmark building. Both of these are in a landmark district. And there's an open question people want to understand about what it means to be in a landmark district and in a landmark building when something can be so substantially altered as to bear almost no resemblance to what it was before, other than the front facade. I'm sure what's proposed looks absolutely beautiful, but there are a lot of open questions around how the quality of life and the streetscape and historic fabric and residential fabric are going to be impacted. I think, look, beyond that, I've taken up a bunch of time. I've got, I don't know, I think about a dozen different residents who are here on 1 day's notice, and in some cases on 3 or 4 hours notice. I think at the next meeting, there will be 50 of us. We have a lot of concerns, a lot of questions. First and foremost, I think we want to proceed in a productive fashion, but we also want time and more information to understand the plans, what's been proposed, et cetera, et cetera. The presentation today was great, but the residents at 10 West 86 had 2 weeks of notice since that presentation. We weren't invited to that. It wasn't in any of our email inboxes. It wasn't in anyone's mailbox. And unfortunately, when I go ask 7 doormen, 5 board members, 15 other residents, and Lori, for me not to hear one single person out of over 25 people say that they know anything about this speaks volumes about how this process has been run so far. I just want to emphasize again, thanks for the time. I want to emphasize again that we're a big building next door. We have twice the units that 10 West 86 does, and we're going to need to work together over the course of whatever project ensues. And I think everyone needs to bear that in mind as we move forward with this.
All right, thank you very much. I think we would like, yeah, of course, I think each of those questions could have a response. I think responses could be
Quick.
concise.
We will do that. And first, to the extent that anyone didn't get the notice, we are sorry about that, but it was not for want of trying on Bard's part. We sent emails. We sent emails to Stephen and to Lori in early June. Janet handed flyers to the superintendent.
Send your copies of those emails.
Yeah.
They were sent on June 7th.
Yeah, and we also, Janet gave flyers announcing the meeting that we had on June 26th, and it was our hope that all of the neighbors would show up, or many of them would, and as you said, only 10 West did, but we tried to give notice to both Central Park West buildings and the buildings on 85th Street.
But if you're a good faith, so give us some more time, don't rely on technicality. If you're a good faith and you want to help this community.
We're gonna hear the answers to this question, and then we can have more discussion and more questions.
I mean, our presentation at Landmarks is public. We can certainly send you a copy that you can distribute to the board. This meeting will be on YouTube, right?
It's already there.
It's already there, so it can be seen. So I think there is a lot of opportunity. There's a full board meeting, and there'll be a Landmarks hearing, and that will not be until September. So there are many weeks to go.
Right. Okay, thank you, Valerie. Any other responses to any of the other points that were just brought on board?
There's
Should we
one
go
back here.
for some more questions? Okay, let's hear
There's
some more.
one here. You don't want
Oh, there's plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah. There.
They're
You forgot. I can't forget your hat. So yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for allowing.
I wanted to understand better the dimensions of the rear. The front looks great. I mean, I have to tell you that it does. It's the rear that I'm concerned with. And that is there any way to give us dimensions on what the height of that additional peak is? And what the rear yard is, the dimensions of that whole part back there.
We can go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the addition part that's on the
Yeah.
top.
Exactly, all of that.
More understanding of the dimensions. And my additional question is, I'm not an architect, so I don't know this. Is there any way of indicating light versus shadow? We're not really talking about views. We're really talking about light versus shadow. Is there any way for a layman to get an idea of that? Because it's not sounding good, and maybe I'm wrong, but it appears that there's a lot of light that'll be, you know, taken up, but will no longer be available. How do you indicate that on your drawing?
Okay, I
How do
think
you
we'll,
indicate that to a layman?
hold on a second, I think we're gonna talk about the bulking of
Right.
the massing of the.
Yeah.
Trying to, I don't know, well, I'll start here, but then I think I want to show the comparison of what's there versus.
Right.
Sure.
So, these are all the numbers. These are the existing floor level, and then we have an 11-foot one-story addition above the roof. And then we have an additional, I'll say it's 7-Eleven, but was today's 7-Eleven. You know that you can get a free smoothie or whatever. But anyway, 7 foot 11 or 8 feet is the enclosure for the mechanical equipment. And then in the back, from, if you measure, this is how you have to do it for zoning, technically, from the curb, measure up 23 feet. And it's approximately from the height of the wall on I think it's 19 West 85th, it's about 19 feet above their wall that exists there.
So it's been raised, in other words, it's 19.
Which one are you asking?
The rear yard.
It's 19 feet higher than
Then
what
that's that brick block wall.
so it's added 19 feet of what's essentially shaft
At that lower level.
at that lower level.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and then it's a, you know, flat roof, green roof with the landscape on top.
23 feet back.
No, it goes to the rear yard, to the
Is it?
30 feet.
That's the property.
Yeah, property line here. And then this is everything above that, you have the clear 30-foot setback, because you're allowed to build on 70% of the site.
Susie, could you compare the full height rear addition that's proposed to the current extension, which is not, that's full width, right, to the current extension?
No,
No, it's not full width?
This is full.
This is full,
Yeah.
this is full width.
right, to what it's replaced, but replaced.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, not behaving.
So in reality, it's really more like 2 floors.
I'm gonna do.
Entire, not one. Correct, yeah.
So you're in essence adding 2 floors.
Yeah.
An additional floor plus the roof with all the mechanics.
It's I'd say 1.5.
Okay, how much feet is that?
I just went over that.
Yeah, we don't want to ask the same question. So we're not-
11 plus 8, 19.
There you go.
So the piece that we're removing is this piece. And the piece that is being reconfigured in the back is, you know, so you lose a little bit. So somebody's getting a little more light there. But then this is the 1 story, and then this is the enclosure here. So this is 19 feet from the roof here to here. And then the rear yard is now, this gets pushed back. And then this is a 30-foot at the top.
Is the current,
So the red is going with being and the yellow.
All right. Can we take the rest of them?
yeah, but it goes to this.
Okay.
Is the current extension that's being replaced, is it full width?
No,
So typical L.
Yeah.
like this.
She just said this characterization. She can be too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she just said that if you look at the picture, someone's gaining light right away, and I wouldn't want people to misunderstand that. You're blocking easily 8 or 10 windows you see.
She's saying just for that little square that's kind of.
I'm not mischaracterizing, I'm just being honest, okay? We're being very clear. We're not trying to, so we are building.
We said someone's getting
What?
light.
I said this little, sorry, just.
All right,
Okay.
I understood what you're
Okay, so by removing this, this comes farther out, you see, into the space. And by reconfiguring the block and building something that takes up the full width, we are cutting this back. You see the piece, the finger that sticks up is going to now be cut back. That's just.
That help? You understand?
So you can see, you can see it in the plan.
I just want to.
Yes, and let me just say, we're gonna be here all night if we ask the same question, that's not to your point, but let's not ask the same question somewhere. Yeah.
You will not ever have access to the alleyway, which is because that's where our garage is. So logistically, and you're doing your construction, you will never be able to pull into there and use that area. So you're gonna be putting stuff in the middle on the street for this construction from the side of time. So do not think that you will be able to use the alleyway. It is the entrance to our garage.
That's interesting, not the purview here, but that's something you will work out together or not.
So we're not gonna work out. It's the entrance to our garage.
There's a roof.
Okay.
It's what?
There's a roof. That's what.
Yeah,
You're going trucks or.
nobody said, I'm gonna cut you off because yeah, it's interesting but not relevant. Okay, I have a lot of questions over here, and let's not do the crosstalk. Yeah.
I have probably two, but one.
Oh.
How much of your collection or the art collection are you putting in this book? All of it. Are you allowing for extra space?
Yes, we have extra space. I can't tell you that because every week the collection grows. We've just received from the Metropolitan Museum of Art some of their deed accessions. Collections are never static. And as we figure out what we've been given, we will ourselves be giving it to other institutions and de-accessioning as well. So it is not a static collection.
Yeah, but it looks already, for me, looking at this project, you're already out of because I think usually
that's
fine. It's 30% extra space. Just to know that all this effort to fill in completely, not to leave an inch of an shop. As a European architect shop, not to leave an inch of space that you're allowed by urban planning to do that. It's horrendous.
Why is it horrendous?
Because you have no extra space. You feel like
we have no extra space.
I can see.
Just so
I can
as
look
an
at the fact.
example.
Well, you should also another thing that bothers me.
Hold on.
Your exit, your second exit. It's next to the first exit. I don't know. This is your architect. You're working out with the layout and everything.
That'll be building code, probably not.
Building code.
This has all been reviewed.
Yeah.
For the code.
Okay. We're very glad that they're building FAR 3 point something and not 10. We don't have a 18 to 20 story building proposed. So we're very grateful for that.
Now it's residential, right? This building is residential.
It was part commercial, part residential.
Doesn't matter, our 10 is a residential and beyond. So,
Could I
okay,
just
so-
add for one bit of the facts of the growth question?
Yeah.
Just as an example, if you come to see the Bard collections now that are in 36, 38, they take up, one large classroom and one sort of small seminar room, and then there's 2 offices. And then the real growth, with the Bell's collection coming in, and that won't be all of it. So there's plenty of room here for growth. There's just meaning comparatively. So just want you to know that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And first of all, let me tell you that I'm getting messages from the Zoom people. I know I mentioned it before, but don't forget.
We'll go back to that.
At some point, Susan, you said when you were asked about how long it would take, you said 2 years, and I wasn't clear whether it was 2 years until you start or 2 years that you think the construction is going to take. Can you talk a little bit about the timeline and?
At this point, we anticipate the design process to take another year as we work out the details of the building, and then the construction they anticipate as we've been working with the cost estimator and we haven't yet identified a builder, but it's about 2 years, 24 months. So 3 years, as Susan said, between design and construction. It could be less, maybe. I guess anything could be longer, but I think 2 years is reasonable for the construction piece.
The other part of it's a separate question I can ask, but the concern about the noise, right, from the equipment of the top. Can you make a commitment to look into like doing so that, you know, in terms of collaborating to look into equipment that is less noisy or to do something architecturally that would maybe somehow make the noise?
Those industrial sound levels are very noisy.
So
We understand the
let
question.
us, the process that we're going about, we just actually, there was a meeting today. We're having another one tomorrow, about doing, the acoustical readings today. You know, in the next few weeks, to study exactly what the current noise is. We heard in our meeting with 10 West 86 about both the things that have now been repaired, that there were some issues with bar 18 that have been repaired, but that they have their own issues with the air conditioning people there. So we want to understand what the condition is today. And then by code, there are real restrictions as to the decibel level that this can be, and they have to be read. So we're going to do a very careful documentation of what the sound is today. And then we're also, you know, one of the things that's, we'll be working with the mechanical engineer to come up with that's already on their radar. We grilled them. You know, it's gonna be, it is a mechanical equipment, but it has decibel level requirements by code that they have to meet. And they're, you know, they're restricted. So we have to come up with a system that complies by code. And so we'll know exactly where we are today before anything happens. And then we'll know what the decibel level readings have to be.
But for example, the materials that you use on the top, right? Are there materials that I know nothing about? But maybe are there materials that you can choose that would, you know, help with that?
Yes,
And can
I
you
believe
make a
that we
commitment to
have
do that?
both an acoustical engineer on the team. And we also have, you know, we'll be working with the mechanical engineer. So we are positioning the project design to make the decisions so that we can comply with the regulations from New York City.
I'll go to you. Yeah.
Have you taken into account that you're going to eliminate 15 parking spots on 86th Street because of your construction? I mean, there's all those cars from where Ford starts, you know, that fire hydrant to the corner right at our building. All of those spots will be eliminated by your construction, right? They have to park somewhere. Where are they going to?
86th Street.
Yeah.
We need to cooperate with each other. We need to be good neighbors. And we have always been good neighbors. And we intend to continue to be good neighbors. And progress often leads to some inconvenience. Construction is a pain in the neck. I hate having construction near me. I live in a co-op and the apartment next to me has just been sold. And I'm gonna have 2 years of construction.
I know your intentions are good, but I'm in the garage, so it's different for me. I'm happy with that, but you're going to eliminate.
Temporarily, probably.
You're just saying it's a 3-year
But
project.
that's not in the purview of.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there. Interesting point. I wish we were the Preservation and Parking Committee, we're not. So I'm gonna
So that would be.
you can bring that up with the board and also continue to monitor that. If too many spaces are being taken up by a construction project, that is something that there are ways to deal with during the construction. Yes. Please.
You have an additional railing on the top, this is white, and you have about 30 or 40 feet behind that before you get to the mock-up. Do you intend to use that outside space for activities, entertaining, anything like that?
No.
Good question.
No.
Okay.
We intend to have one terrace for students to have lunch on, during the day,
We
somewhere.
have at 18.
Like we have at 18, and we also have at 36 and 38. Yes, that we will do, but, our students are very quiet and, there's no music. And, we are very mindful of our neighbors.
All right, thank you. Yes, hi.
Hi, I'm Patricia. I live at 1057, facing, that building.
Yeah.
So can I please say, I think it's wonderful that we want to improve the quality of the life of students at Bard, but please take into account the quality of life of a lot of the apartments that are facing that building. Because we don't have great light. It's very dark in my apartment. With this building, with this construction going up and increasing the width, we're going to be living in darkness in our town, and it's miserable. So please, I understand you want to improve the life of the students, but what about balancing with people who live in an apartment facing that building who don't have light and who rely on that alleyway for light?
But we are not
and
affecting
so, but
your
we
alleyway.
are impacted tremendously because once you keep increasing it, the tunnel. And secondly, aesthetically, I've lived in the Upper West Side for more than 20 years. I love walking on 86th Street. It is just so beautiful. And within that, and there's a lot of buildings that is around the height of 7 West 86th, across 86 between Central Park West and 8 West 86th Street. And there's a lot of buildings around that height, and it's so gorgeous, so beautiful. And now we have a little portion of 86th Street where you can see the extension at the back. And I would have thought with living in a historically landmark area, you shouldn't be able to see any extension. You're walking along the street, you can see it from the alleyway where that little, so you're gonna see, the ecstatic, gorgeous view of the little, big building broken up by gorgeous little townhouses. It's going to be gone because you can't see the extension at the back on 86.
Okay, thank you. There is provision in landmark law for certain modifications and additions within the historic district. They need to be appropriate. It will be up to the Landmarks Commission ultimately to decide if this fits within those parameters. But thank you. I hear you.
And the quality of life. I mean, the impact on the quality of life of those having the apartment facing the alleyway is just going to be drastic. Very, very drastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a Chris waiting to speak.
Hi, thank you. The addition in the back, I would assume, requires a significant foundation. I don't know exactly what process it would take to excavate that or explode it or the noise. And I really think that would be very significant imposition to all the apartments facing and the buildings in the back, the buildings on the other side of our building 257. And so I wanted to get a little bit of the thought as to what it will take, the volume that will need to be excavated there to build that addition. And what is the process that you envision to get that done?
Okay, good question. Any sense?
Preliminary borings done in that area. And so the excavation in the rear yard will go down to, it's 4 feet. It will be done and go down to 4 feet below, so you can below the frost line. It doesn't look like there's ledge there. So it doesn't seem as if from the boring report that there's ledge, so there shouldn't be blasting required. But we will certainly follow up on that. But we did a lot of, we didn't do it. Company, civil engineer, et cetera, did some boring. Okay. So, it's not as if we're trying to build down into that site, which It's really just going 1 foot below the existing level so that we have a clear ceiling height. So I think it should be excavated for the foundations by approximately 4 feet
How do you get the excavation equipment in?
through the building.
So you're gonna gut the building and put.
Okay. Please.
And
Yeah.
have another question, in terms of and something that I think Michelle Parker brought up before, I think it was her, but the access to the site through our driveway, not only for a garage, but also, for example, for all of our bicycles for the building and storage units. And so I think that would be significant. And even if there were trucks going in that direction, those apartments that are facing that will be through the construction period, that are candidly living in New York City and having gone through a renovation, I frankly cannot believe that this whole project would take 2 years. It's just that would take a much smaller renovation, and you can see it all around in the neighborhood how long it takes to renovate a townhouse without having such a major project. And I think it will be a significant imposition in noise and quality of life to all those people in those units. In addition to, I don't know how you would gain access, because it is part of the activities of our building. It would be very difficult for us to be able to accommodate that.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
I have one last question.
Yes, Paige.
Because of all the other questions. As I was, first of all, there's so many moving parts to this. You're to be congratulated to even be able to give us some answers. But the one thing that I realized that we hadn't thought of as a question is, where is the mechanical plant going to be located? Because once you seal up you have the roadbed as I walk into the garage, and the smaller buildings. The issue is where at what height, because you have the beautiful building on the park side, and then you have other different shaped buildings on the other. I just want to make sure that the mechanical system that you employ and put up there doesn't deter the life and enjoyment of the other tenants that are already there behind the building and in also on Central Park West.
So is this what you were asking about, Paige?
Well, it has to do with the thin alleyway that you have there, which I think is, I don't know the width of it.
Do you want to plan just where to answer the first question?
Sure.
All the incoming services and fire pump and whatever's needed will all be at the lower level.
Excellent.
And then the rooftop equipment for the rest is the plant. There's nothing on the lower roof on the green roof.
Is this a LEED project by any chance?
It's not a LEED, but we are sort of complying both with the energy code that's getting more and more stringent. So I think would easily comply, but we're not doing that.
Okay, and I apologize for the last minute, but I got an email. Somebody,
but so I'm trying to find a plan. But so the mechanical equipment is on the site of the project, and it's either in the basement or in the rooftop within an enclosure.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's reassuring.
Okay. More questions? Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the volume of the building. We talked a little bit about it before, but as it relates to airflow, right? We all certainly understand and appreciate what it's like when there's breeze versus when there's not an ability. And it appears, if you have that other slide up where it kind of shows the bird's eye view, if the building is going back to the end of the lot, and it's as wide as the lot, and it's going up 25 feet in the low part, and then even 7 stories in the upper part, it's a pretty significant blockage of airflow. And if you look behind most of the buildings until you hit another guard property, it looks like the the airflow between the buildings of 85th and 86, you have some nice, wonderful airflow there that then it comes out through the alleyway. Well, we're at the block, part of that, we're a good 25 feet high, right to the line. And I feel like that's a certainly quality of life issue that hasn't come up about our air quality for all of the neighbors who have backyards there, as well as those on the sides who have exposure to it. Has there been any consideration for how the air quality would become stale and what you might do to impact it to improve it?
I can't comment. Well, that's not my area of expertise. So I think it's actually fairly minimal change. But I need to have somebody with that expertise.
Minimal change. And obviously sitting outdoors with no obstruction versus put a 25-foot wall right here. That is a pretty significant change. We're trying to just enjoy it. I guess related to air, but with that
I
different
think
question.
it depends where you're sitting. You know, I mean, I think this is a one-story addition in this zone. So, I
That's
mean,
25 feet, right?
no, it's
23. I thought
20,
it's
it's
16, 19
23,
on top of that.
it's 23 is allowable. And so then it's, currently, I think, so it's 19 above the current wall that's there.
So New York City zoning and.
Yeah,
it's
just a,
Yeah,
it is as
as
of right
it's not
construction. I think that it's, remember, it's, it's coming, it's one story, above 23 feet above the curb. And then it goes, you know, to the rear.
related, well, I'm gonna that quality of air. If you have the mechanicals on the top of the building, this is I presume the materials that you're keeping in this facility require air conditioning 24/7. Is that a safe assumption?
Are there special climate control conditions that are necessitated by the stuff that you were having?
I'll quote Susan in saying this isn't a museum. But there
Understood.
will, so
Just
that,
to keep it, the textiles and everything
so the
preserved.
question is something we'll be working with the mechanical engineer. As a museum, there's these regulations for temperature and humidity control that are very restrictive. So the question here is, one of the things that we want to think about is energy too. So balancing the energy use with what the requirements will be for this collection is something we're moving forward with. I can't give you an answer just specifically, but you know, having done a lot of museum work myself, you know, I think the restrictions will be less stringent. So thus, but I do think that it will be conditioned space. But it will really depend on the seasons. Like right now, it's obviously hard for everybody.
Okay, well, my point of the question to that is going to be, if you have all these mechanicals that need to operate at a much higher capacity than is currently happening in a residential building, and it's happening 24/7, we have significant noise, but also presumably there's, I don't know, it's fumes, I'm not saying it's dangerous fumes and other uncomfortable warm air that comes up out of mechanicals. What happens to all those apartments that are nearby there, that rather than having this, however you want to characterize the airport today,
So there's nothing.
different. And it's gonna be impactful. Is there any?
We have to comply with New York City code. So that's the answer.
Or just for the preservation group to consider that the air is certainly two different ways.
Thank you.
You had a question?
The kind of questions have really read my mind, but I would like to say that I've lived on the block for 37 years. BGC has always been a good neighbor. And it's part of great improvement. I'm on the board of 10 West. We're 99 years old, we'll be 100 when construction starts. And when I start to hear about borings and excavation and heavy equipment, I'd like to just put out there that we need to be concerned about vibrations and impacts on a 100-year-old structure that's next door. And we not only have thought, but we are literally brick to brick.
And I assume
We're not underpinning, and the borings have actually already. So so part of that investigation has happened, and it's the structure we're working with someone, a really great preservation engineers. And so, yeah, there won't be any underpinning required because we're not going deep enough.
And then both DOB and OPC have regulations about monitoring for adjacent property, particularly in historic areas, and obviously we'll be following those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Side monitor and then whatever, I don't know what those things are, but. Thanks. Okay, so who hasn't asked a question yet? Yes.
Wondering, I'm very kind of late person when it comes to this, but from the street, like, when was the last time that building had a railing at the top?
I don't know that.
When it was removed.
Gone by 1990.
Oh, yeah, that's.
But was it in the tax code?
Was it in-
1940?
What I'm thinking is that it is you put the railing up, but it's a see-through, right? So the sight line actually, you can see the new addition on the top.
I think it's pretty dense. If you look at the original, it's pretty dense and there's a depth to it. So I think it's going to do a very good job of what's here.
Is it metal or stone?
I think
It's not in the tax photo. So
You beat me to it.
it was gone before 19.
So it probably rotted away back then.
But it's actually quite material change compared to, I guess, the last 80 years. I was wondering if that's
Yeah, I think the desire was to go back to sort of an original design for the building.
And the reconstruction.
Yes.
Oh. All right.
I think there's one more.
Is there another one on the screen?
Yes. Hi. I have a few questions. The first is maybe just a little more clarity, a few points that other residents have raised. As has been noted, you won't have access to the alleyway beside you. Having done some excavation on a much smaller scale in Connecticut before, I'm just trying to understand how you anticipate getting excavation equipment into the rear yard of the building without damaging the architectural facade. You can't move excavators, even small ones, through that building. Can you just help me understand, specifically as it relates to the facade, how you anticipate getting equipment into the rear of the building without actually damaging the architectural features of it?
That's not the person to answer that question, but we have a 7-foot opening right in the front. So that would be the restriction on the equipment. So we would be working with the construction.
All equipment and material would go through the front of the building, which is fairly typical for work on these kinds of buildings throughout New York City.
Yeah, it happens. It does happen all the time because most row houses don't have anything on either side except another building. So it happens through the building.
You have to go through or you have to go over?
Right,
okay,
and
great.
that's I apologize. Just one more question. You sort of stated at the outset that the reason for the acquisition of this building is to house collections because students could no longer visit museums due to COVID restrictions, and because you had come into possession of a collection that was housed in a much smaller townhouse than this. But when you look at your plans, the reason for increasing the size of the building by 50% and adding 2 stories to it effectively is to be able to house collections, and yet it appears that more than 50% of the space is for classrooms and not related to housing collections at all. I guess my question is why, especially given how large of an adjustment you're making to or proposing to make to a landmark building, can't you house the collections that you need to house in a smaller footprint, just given, your slide 40 there sort of lays out, sorry, it's slide 40 in your slide deck, lays out what all the use of the space is. And not much of it is actually for collection. So I guess I'm just wondering why you can't achieve this end without making major structural changes to a landmark building.
So the pieces in yellow might seem to be the only places collections are, but these diagrams actually show the collections. The exhibitions would be changing collection. This is student exhibition space that we spoke about, but there'll be collections throughout. I don't know if anybody's familiar with these wonderful 19th century cabinet of curiosity etchings, etc. So as you can see in all the classrooms, and you can actually see them existing at Bard today on the 3rd floor, all the rooms are lined with cabinets filled with collections. So there you will be everywhere. All the yellow is what we've been working with for assumptions. There'll be different types of artifacts, some in flat files, some in rollers, some in shelving, some with doors, some without doors. So you can see the collections are everywhere. And so back to, that question about growth, when they come in, there'll be the collection processing and, making sure the collections are conserved and well maintained, but then they'll start to then sort of live throughout the building so that it will be part, almost like the whole building is a library that you're familiar with. This is a library of collections. And so, how they'll be classified, whether there's pottery, where there's textiles, where there are artifacts, where there are furniture, brooms, all these wonderful decorative art pieces will be woven into the whole design of the building.
Thank you. That's
helpful. I just want to say, kudos to Art. I mean, this series. It's a very fine institution, and seriously, we're proud to have it. But there's something wrong in the process. Hey, if 25, 30 reasonably intelligent people, 257, are saying over and over again that we haven't heard about this, and we're not generally asleep at the wheel, and you're relying on an email that was sent. Maybe it was sent, maybe it was lost.
We'll show you what.
What I'm saying is, if you want to have a cooperative process, then we're asking you to make it a cooperative process. And don't make it sound to us like there's a train going down the track, you're looking at your chops, that there's going to be a September landmarks meeting. The first time we hear about it is the middle of July. We've had meetings with the staff. We don't know about it. Somehow 10 West 86th Street heard about it. We actually, with all due respect to 10 West 86th Street, have a lot more residents than they have. So just quantitatively, not qualitatively, we have a greater interest. And we're saying, if you want to have a cooperative process, then make it a cooperative process. And don't rely on a technicality. Maybe the email was sent, maybe it was lost. I'm not saying it wasn't sent. I'm saying 30 intelligent people in this room and on Zoom are saying, we never heard about this. So if you want to be cooperative, then be cooperative. That we're pleading with you to be cooperative. And it's up to you to decide that. And it's up to the committee to decide it, or if you want to railroad this. And we're saying this as respectfully as we can.
Thank you.
Can we introduce ourselves? Janet Rosenberg.
So I'm Chief Operating Officer at Bard Graduate Center. And I went to each superintendent and I handed them 50 flyers to distribute in their building. I will go back to my notes because I went around the block. In one building, the superintendent would not make himself available to me, and I handed the flyers to the doorman. I wrote down the names of the superintendents that did agree to meet them. And we handed them a stack of flyers, and I said to them, you can distribute these how you will. If you want to post them in your mailroom or put them in your mailbox, and if you need more, please let me know. And I personally walked around in 10.
Was it our building?
Yes, absolutely. And just so you know, I'm Lindsay Smile. I'm the Chief Advancement Officer. Over partnerships are really important to me in my role specifically. But you should just know that we worked a month ahead of June. We were in May creating flyers to make sure we created an event page. We were upset
the neighbors didn't show up. I want you to know that when we created that event.
Could you show us who you gave it to? Okay, you know what, I accept your,
I just want-
I accept your good faith.
And I just want to say.
And I don't know what.
It was really in good faith.
Okay.
And for those of you who we met with from 10, you know, we actually.
Okay, so what I'm saying to you is, we're not denying what you said, we accept your good faith. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. This is gonna be-
And look,
it's
we
gonna
have
be
a
a
lot
full-
more time. That's really what's exciting about this, is that there really is a good runway for this, and that's what we're together as a team.
Okay, so what we're saying is, for whatever reason, we have no comprehension of it. The flyers didn't get sent around, didn't get communicated. If they were, I think you could tell from the error, the people we would have. So.
Even though in terms of communicating with you, it's also our understanding to go through the managing agent, right? So that's something we were also given as a directive, right? You have a managing agent. And that was something that Janet, made sure to reach
We're
out
not saying you weren't a good fit, but we are saying this is gonna be a 4-year process.
Okay, I think we understand, and let's cut it right there, okay?
allowing us to.
Okay, what is, the special questions that relate directly to, the issues that we have to deal with tonight? A few minutes.
The gentleman over here brought up a point, seeing this picture, now I sort of get it. As we look in the middle, balustrade, we can certainly see through it. Would you mind going to the slide where you show the sight lines? Does your sight line go to the top of the balustrade, or it's recognizing?
No, it goes to the top of the, it goes to the top.
Top, right, so I think.
You will see the rooftop addition through the balustrade to the extent that you can see through the balustrade.
Yeah, right,
Yes.
but the point is, you shouldn't be able to see it, right? It should be set back, so you shouldn't.
Well,
No, it's not.
Could have made it taller, but we're working.
Landmarks will look at this and determine if they think that amount of visibility is appropriate.
Clarifying, so you can see it.
So you could.
Because that red line that we showed when it was sort of,
You could.
it's like geometry.
I think the intention of things like this is to like pull your attention to something in front and not to what's behind, but that's like, we'll see, but obviously that's.
It will be a filter.
We have oh, sorry.
It will be a filter it is obscuring anything behind it. And that was the point of the other historical examples, because the palace, broad, straight, whatever, were intended for that. They complete the building. And it is, by the way, these are computer drawings, but it's set back considerably. So when you ask about shade and shadow, they'll be substantial. I mean, your two buildings are huge next to this little peanut here. And so it will definitely be, in shadow behind, and it's facing north as well.
One more question then before we lose our committee, we're gonna need to.
Okay, we have
Sorry.
Madge that's been waiting for some time. We have Clayton and Adam, and one more online, 2 more.
You showed some other buildings where you added a balustrade and other communities and showed how it got approved. And I'm curious if you only look at the front, or you care about the community buildings that are next to it in these other buildings, and if there were other buildings that were affected. When you have a balustrade just to have a surface, but behind it, you're adding full level.
Okay, we didn't.
Landmarks will evaluate appropriateness typically from the public way. That's their standard.
Public way, meaning just 87.
86, 85th, Central Park.
Anywhere you can see from.
Yeah.
Anywhere in this public, yeah. Okay, yes, Jessie. We can have a couple of quickies.
Madge?
No, mine was answered a long time ago when there was.
Okay, perfect. I'll lower your hand. Clayton? And if not, we'll move over to Adam, and then we'll go back to Clayton.
Got it. Hi. Thank you for your time, by the way, and for that informative presentation. I live in 10 West 86th, about as close as one could be to the proposed roof here. And I know it's been brought up before, but I just want to ask if we'll have access to any information or results of any study on the noise level after the testing that you referred to is done. I understand that Bard has a desire to expand on the block, but it is a residential block, and this has been brought up a few times, but there were issues in the past at 18 West 86th Street with the mechanics on the roof causing screeching and whirling noises that I know caused major issues for some of my neighbors. So I'm just curious if I'll have access to any information on the results of the testing you referred to.
No, I think we don't have Douglas Fountain here, but he is overseeing the construction and he will be the point person, I think, for all of the sort of the construction related issues and also for noise. And he is very interested in making himself available to the neighbors to answer for all of these kinds of questions.
Typically, that is very, very, very important to have a clear person you can go to, anyone can go to with questions that are coming up as the project goes along. Super important, and the community board has real interest in that.
And he looked into the point that was just made, and it was a band that was repaired, but it was about for the screeching voice,
Yeah, right.
and it was a band that had come loose, so that was repaired.
Thank you. That's
But this was quite a number of years ago.
Okay, Reddy, we got yes. Oh, do we have him back?
Yep. This is Clayton Hemmer. Hi, I'm on the board of 10 West 86. Thanks again. This is the second time I've been through the presentation, so thanks for your thoroughness, everyone from board. I have a few issues I want to raise. I want to get them distinctly as the presenters have done. Reiterate earlier point, the neighbors really had very little time, under 2 weeks from when I heard the presentation on June 26th, to research the impact for residential neighbors. This, as I think some of the presenters said, it's a institutional intervention, a museum. But what comes with an institutional intervention are mechanical systems that are on an industrial scale. These are not on a residential scale, and we've witnessed this from the other Bard building. It changes the nature of our neighborhood, the residential character of our neighborhood. The presenters brought up the history of the neighborhood from the perspective of the history of architecture, and this has been thoroughly researched. But what wasn't mentioned is it was and it is an overwhelming residential neighborhood. The onward march of Bard institutional nature coming down the block, especially with industrial level mechanicals, which are needed 24/7 for climate control, has changed the sound levels for those of us who live on the block and those of us who keep our windows open. From what is now known, I don't question that the proposed front facade on 86th Street is going to be magnificent. But as the preservation committee, what hasn't been mentioned is the preservation of the character of the neighborhood for those who live there. It's been given short shrift. And again, we haven't had the opportunity, meaning the time, to research the impact for those of us who live there. We want to preserve the character of the neighborhood. Prior experience with the mechanicals from Bard has had pretty checkered past. There's a constant hum of HVAC in the air, and their pieces have to be treated 24/7 climate controlled. Someone just mentioned the screeching sound from Bard that existed a few years ago, and I happen to have recorded that when it was happening, and here it is. So that's what we had to live with for months. The response was kind of slow, and this was like nails on a chalkboard coming through our closed windows. So, we've had a checkered relationship. There were other examples given by presenters of museums and institutions around the city in residential areas. Bard has now become an overwhelming influencer and a landlord in our neighborhood, which they have some wonderful things. But again, it introduces some industrial natures that are not in keeping with the residential character of our neighborhood. The larger, taller, blockier footprint, especially in height and depth of what's proposed, will also serve to block the airflow to buildings that now have open space in the back. And it's kind of, as many have said in their questions, it's this blocky nature has been difficult to judge. but the elimination of open, even granted a small alleyway between 10 West and 8 West, cuts off more airflow. So I hope you understand the real concerns of those of us who are neighbors. It's simple that more avenues of airflow are being blocked, and it boils down to another quality of life issues. And I know residents on those floors of my building who like to have their windows open on a pleasant day, using less electric and energy, but they're going to have to increase their demand for electrical usage. And as previously mentioned, exhaust fumes from these mechanicals are going to diminish the quality of this stale that are going to sit around longer. Again, the life and enjoyment of our tenants is going to be significant. Windows will be blocked by height additions. I got one more thing to say. The windows are going to be blocked by some of the height additions, and the presenters dismiss this aspect. But regarding the views and lights that are affected, it's a complete mischaracterization that no windows will be obstructed, or only 2 service windows are going to be obstructed. Yes, 2 service windows will be obstructed. However, on each floor, there are 4 additional living windows and kitchens on both the A line in the front, the B line in the back, that are going to get obstructed. They're going to have darker apartments. And for board representatives to dismiss this is frankly a little hard-hearted. But anyway.
Thank you. All right, I think we got it. I'm gonna call an end to the public comment session because we've got a resolution to craft. Yeah, we're gonna craft.
You haven't given your comments yourself, but
All right, well, I will, I think what I want to, me, I let Paige have the opinions. Okay, I'm trying to focus. We've heard a lot of very, very, very important considerations and thoughts, issues, potential problems, real problems. I want us to focus on the things that we're going to be asked to have an opinion about, which concern I believe I think the front facade you're going to do on staff level. You don't need us. You're not changing anything except for the door. Except for the door. Okay, so we're going to deal with the doors. What else do you need from us?
Steps, because we needed handicap accessible.
Removal of steps. Okay. And the ballast, I don't even want to venture. That would be then I will run never with the house. It's locked in my brain.
It's the ballast. It's going to be staff level.
Staff level.
Yeah, I think it's just the rear extension and the rooftop extension.
Okay, and the rear extension, but the rooftop extension. Yeah. So very typical. Well, nothing about this project is typical, but in terms of what we're being asked to look at, those are very okay. So I would propose that we look at each of these separately, and we could vote on each of these separately if that's to your liking.
And the neighborhood preservation, the employment and diversity discussed, there's some comment on.
Yeah, very, very
important. At this point, we, as the preservation committee, have to look at what's in the scope of us, and the resolution that we have to write can only respond to those elements. So we want to get those elements of it done. And that is the gamut of what we do as the preservation.
We've heard you, and Bart has heard you, the architects have heard you. So that'll be part of an ongoing discussion. And but what we need to do tonight is figure out what we're doing with these 3 elements that we are asked to have. Okay, please, I'm really sorry. We've had a lot of time for public comment and questions. We need to do our job right now. So
I just wanted to understand, like the balustrade, right now, it doesn't show anything at the back. Is that what it's going to be, or does it include
the view? That this is a rendering where this is what it will look like from this perspective.
Yeah, so it's built to scale.
Yeah.
Without including what is kind of.
It is including the stuff.
Yeah. Okay, I think we understand that. Okay, so let's look first at the front facade issues.
You want to dismiss the rest of us?
The public comments, we don't want to be rude.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You can go home and have dinner with the committee.
So much for coming.
Typology, interested preservation.
I worship.
Xander, get over here.
Yeah. When I sat down, I clicked on-
Yes, they're not done yet.
About the facade.
I wonder if
give me a
HQ
property.
here. Yeah. I work at the HQ. Yeah. It's very. Yeah, it's very different. Federal preservation, they take care of it. It's a very busy school. We're trying to do a couple of big programs. To try to streamline. But
You have, it's gotta go. You say,
I think we're gonna
we have that meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, is the meeting over or are we,
What's happening?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Hello? Okay, is the meeting over or is it still going?
Let's just do it. Yeah. Let's stay for 5 minutes and let's just get it done. We're gonna get this done by.
My daughter is in town, getting ready to go to the airport.
Okay.
I want to see her home, okay?
Thank you. All right, well,
So we have 5.
what's happening?
well, that's your clear. Okay.
Let's have everyone here.
Okay, we love you, but, please be quiet so we can get on.
I really apologize. This has to be recorded, so if there's going to be a conversation, it needs to be outside. I really apologize, but if you're gonna chat.
Okay, thanks.
The recording has to be accurate, so if you're gonna have a conversation, it needs to be outside. It's still a public ongoing session. Thank you.
All right. I don't know that we need to split it, Kay, we can, but, we have now 5 votes, if we have 5 votes, assuming Madge and Michele, are you able to vote? Do you have
Yes.
waivers?
Okay, good.
Okay, so, I do find it strange that all these people care so much about this project, but they've all left the room before we've had our deliberation and arrived at a
Let's just,
resolution?
Klari, let's just do it.
Yeah, so, I don't know that we need to split it. If we think we're split, we need to split it. Otherwise, we don't need to split it.
I would like to split it.
Okay, then split it.
Okay. Let's. Where was I 10 minutes ago? Let's consider the facade
Sure.
alterations that we've been asked to opine about, and that would be the door, the steps. And I.
And the pointing and.
Hear what we think about that.
And the change in the windows.
Great, I'm totally fine with that. The only add I would be is while you're going through all of this, can you get a, I know it would be staff level, but put a street tree in front of it, so just that approval.
I think we're required.
Okay, perfect, great.
A street, oh, street.
For the,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
basic
yeah.
plan, I think there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
one there, but
Where the bus stop is.
I thought it was.
The little
It
stuff.
wasn't-
We'll do it if we can.
Street tree, yes. Okay. Any thoughts
Yeah,
about the
no,
front? You're okay?
I'm totally okay with all of it. I applaud it. Some of it's gonna be at staff level, whatever it is. I think I would not want us to express a requirement or even an opinion on the black versus white. There are arguments both ways, and I'm not inclined to weigh in on it.
Okay. Michele, Madge, any thoughts about?
I
the
agree with Klari about
Yes.
the colors. I think the windows, the doors, everything are perfectly fine, very appropriate.
Yeah, I agree, and whatever color they decide to use, do the middle work in, that's, they're working with Landmarks West, so
Purple.
I'm okay with that.
Question, but the balustrade, which I actually now understand is wood, that would be white,
That would be
white.
white, yes.
Okay,
That's really part, that's part of all the trim work.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
around
okay.
the dormers. and everything.
okay, thanks for that clarification.
So let's,
One vote on this?
Yeah.
Have we heard everybody? All right, so we have 5 people.
so that's 5 votes in favor of the facade alterations and.
Okay, so the facade is going to do resolution 5 to 0 to 0 to 0. Okay, that's part 1. Part 2 coming up.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to go to the top?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I asked,
Rooftop.
may I ask a question about the rear facade? Is there any way that it can be narrowed in any way? I mean, I think the design is wonderful, but in any consideration of neighbors, is there any way that any more air could get in there or light?
There, by zoning, if you're building, you have to be either at the lot line or you have to be 8 feet away from the lot line. So that would be a considerable notch that would really damage, I think, the utility of the room.
Take away almost a third of it.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a very wide townhouse.
And would you do that from both sides? Then you'd have
You have
a
nothing.
hallway.
I mean, this
Okay,
is the-
good
this-
question, but I think,
What
yeah.
is the building width? 25.
Oh, yes. The width of the building is.
Yes.
25,
Is it
yeah,
just 20?
25 lot.
Looks wider than that. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm okay with rooftop addition.
I'm okay with the roof.
Thoughts about the roof from our studio audience up there? Madge?
Roof
Rooftop,
is
okay?
fine. It's not the roof, it's the lower part, and nobody mentioned the noise mitigating stuff that's been going on. In fact, I think in that very building on Central Park, they had to put in some noise mitigating stuff for their roof, so I'm okay with it. I vote yes.
Michele, you with us? You all right?
I vote yes.
Okay,
Okay,
yes, yeah, yes. I'm
okay, 5
I'm
to
okay
0 to
with the
0 to
roof.
0.
Okay.
Rear yard, well, it's really two components of the rear yard. One is the 23-foot first floor re-roofy thing, and then the other is the full width 30-foot setback, full height thing.
Yeah,
Two pieces.
it's the redoing the air shaft and then the,
3 things.
no, I think it's
Yeah.
just redoing the air shaft is one, and then the other is the extension all the way back, right?
No,
No, there's 2 elements. There's the allowable 23-foot to the lot line extension with the thing that with the green roof on it.
Yeah.
community facility.
And then there is a shortening of what's now the L, but the full height
Full height, full
rear
width,
extension. Full width.
30-foot setback.
Oh, I figured. Okay, fine.
And
At
then
30
there
foot.
is the slight infill or the
Okay.
infill on the side. So got 3 different.
So let's do the infill first.
Okay.
I love the infill.
Infill, fine.
Anybody else want to say anything about the infill?
Anybody care about the infill? Is that a problem for anybody? Madge,
No,
Michele? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's,
Paige is okay with that?
yeah.
She had to leave.
She had to leave, but she, yeah.
Yeah.
She opined, well, she wants to come back together for another meeting, so that'll be Paige by herself.
That was her
So-
suggestion?
Yeah,
It didn't win.
Okay.
Okay, so, okay. Infill, fine, yeah. What do we? Okay, so let's look at go into the lot line with the 23-foot
allowable extension
First one.
first, yeah, basically first floor.
Re-roof.
I think it's an improvement.
There's no donut back there, so it doesn't really.
It's right now, it's just like a crappy backyard. Now it's gonna be greener than it was before, so.
There's an interesting, it's an interesting warren of the back of the building and the back of the building next to it. It's kind of interesting back there. But there is also, they put the garbage out there, their cars parked out there. There's that roof over the, when you enter, it's kind of a shit show. But, and it's used by all the buildings, and good luck with doing the work there. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So let's vote.
Some people are going to be upset. They can't put their garbage out there, their bikes out there, and there's a limo out there, and
Yeah, well, that'll continue.
yeah, that's right.
Okay, so, okay, so the 23-foot thing seems reasonable. All right, so then we're shortening the back L.
Wait,
but
we
we're
haven't had a
making it-
vote on this.
You want us to do a separate vote
I thought we were doing.
on
that.
the infill?
I think we just need Madge to say if she, okay.
Madge, you right with the
First floor re-roofing thing?
first foot? Yeah, first
Yes.
floor. You're right. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so
very good.
infill down 000, 23-foot green roof. You got that 5000. Okay. Now. What do
Full
we,
height, full width. 30-foot setback.
Yeah.
New addition, for addition.
Yeah.
Extension, yeah, extension.
I mean, this is smaller than a lot of things I feel like I've seen in other like approvals by LPC, and this one's totally invisible because of the balustrade. And I guess the other pieces I kind of like the fact that the alley's there so that people are gonna be able to like peek around the corner and see that it's there. I think that's like fun and different, and will be great.
I don't entirely agree with that. I think that, at least from the renderings, and I was not able to get there today, basically I'm going out as little as I can in the seat, but, to see the mock-up, which I understand is not full volume anyway, because you couldn't build it full volume.
But only in one location.
Yeah, but it's sort of.
This is what landmarks, just to clarify, if am I allowed to say?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the diagram they sent us. So the only piece we weren't able to build is this little leg right here. We did the 3D volume. So we had hoped to do this piece, but they couldn't, the contractor couldn't do it.
I see.
So we did this volume and this one, but we couldn't get this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of.
What's that
sort of
white
goes both
bottom
ways, that
of the last picture?
What's that?
The last picture you showed before this one, you showed one with the white thing at the bottom. What is that white?
That's the garage entry.
It's the
Yeah,
neighboring building.
it's a roof, there's a roof that's like 10.
That's
10
not part of the,
foot.
that's not part of the building. That's the part of the building next door.
Okay.
So,
good.
I mean, I think from one of the renderings of the of mock-up, that you do see back there, and if I understood what Adam was saying, I sort of have the opposite view. I think it's sort of too bad. You wouldn't see it at all if there were not the alleyway.
Right.
And
you're right.
it would be completely not visible from a public way, absent the alleyway. And we get these, maybe 1 in every 20 of these rear yard additions that you happen to have an alleyway, so you have some visibility from the front street. Typically, you don't, because it's all.
Yeah, I think
No,
this is
no, this
what I
is-
saw when I went today, though,
Yeah.
that you really have to be looking for it to
Uh-huh.
see it.
Right, yeah.
Like, if you're just walking by, if you're taking the bus, there's like, if you're taking the M86, maybe you have a second where you would be able to see it as you drive by.
Yeah.
So I think it's really like, it rewards the person who's like curious and stops and looks and goes, that's interesting and different. Like, otherwise, it's basically impossible to see.
So the material again is red
Terracotta.
brick, it's terracotta.
A red terracotta.
Red
literally.
terracotta.
Terracotta. I'm trying to find that slide, sorry.
And the problem with terracotta is it always looks terrible in rendering.
What's that?
Like terracotta, like the way it looks in real life is so much nicer than a way it will
Look at.
look at a render.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
But wait 130 years.
yeah, but
Because I have a building that's full of terracotta and I wish it weren't.
I mean, this is-
It's all falling down.
That's poor mountain. Not the
Yep.
terracotta.
Well, you're right, about that poor maintenance.
Old detail.
Yeah, so I'm, because it's really not gonna be very visible, I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. It's
You have to
not,
try hard to, to tell you.
or you have to be in the middle of the alleyway to see anything.
We just learned that none of us are ever being allowed in the alleyway. Yeah.
Takes 2 years longer.
Yeah.
I've done a few accents.
Out of the alley. My goodness, but let's be good neighbors. Okay. Got it. I think it was only that
Okay,
one.
so I could say yes if everybody else says yes.
Yes.
So
Let's-
I'm hurt by its visibility. I don't really agree with Adam, although it's an interesting perspective that you have, but we're not visible from any public way that I can go for. Where are we? Okay, you're.
I'm a reluctant, yes.
So all of this is to get, we separated it and we still have 5 to 0 to 0 to 0.
Yeah, I feel like when you do it like this though, I feel better.
Okay.
I feel really good when it's like, we went through all the things, we considered them.
Okay, yeah.
Sure, we got to the same place, but
No, I think it is a complicated enough proposal that it warrants the separation.
It does.
Okay,
But
yeah.
in writing the resolution, now that we are 5 to 0 to 0 on all of this, do you and Madge want it to be a resolution with 5 parts, or do you want it to be a resolution that describes in a little bit, describe elements in as one part?
I think as long as it describes the element and, whatever, reflects something, go into the detail, please, let's not go back to that, but, reflects something of our consideration. In making that. I'm comfortable with presenting as a unitary
Take a
vote.
Yeah, okay.
it's gonna be our first meeting.
Yeah.
It's not making it more complicated than we need to after a nice August. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I think, okay.
We're done, right?
Yeah. Obviously, y'all have heard a lot.
Yes.
There's a lot of work that is needed, with the community. Always is, but but not leaving that to y'all.
We dealt with it.
I know,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I remember your last, was it on the 36, 38, or was it on the other one? Some rear yard, whatever.
It was 36, 38.
Yeah.
And where we had in the back, some very unhappy neighbors.
Yeah. it was all-
But we
Yeah.
foliage all over the building and, it's the back of the building, frankly, spent too much money on. But we made our neighbors happy.
okay, well, that's important.
It's important. What are you planting on the green?
It'll be sedum. Yeah.
But the only thing that doesn't, so no irrigation.
Really that I have them on my roof, no,
No, I mean,
yeah. Some just to get it started, a little bit, but then you don't need that.
All right.
Do you want any sort of presentation at the full board meeting? Or,
I stuttered, I think.
I know, it would be.
I think whatever,
Typically you don't.
what I would recommend is to talk again to the folks at 257 and see if they would like to do something. I don't think we needed a community board. I mean, that's just a recommendation. Do whatever.
No,
but I think you're gonna see, we will see at the board meeting, some of the same people.
Yeah.
Saying,
yes,
Sure.
discussion, so.
We've already heard it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I think the great thing is like, obviously our gamut of what we can actually discuss and have in a resolution is really narrow, but I really appreciate that this opportunity to do that for people to get involved. And I guess like my big takeaway is, this was the first public, government talk about this, and it was great that so many people came up to learn about the project. So I know a lot of people felt that they weren't informed ahead of time, but I'm glad they were able to make it. I'm glad this is live YouTube, and that, there are gonna be lots of other opportunities, and unfortunately, as powerful as we like to think we are only advisory, and showing up to the municipal building, in the fall is an actual. I've been to the municipal building many times.
Maybe they'll
Do you
be out.
think, do you think we need some hard response to the people who say they didn't know, they didn't know? And you say you have proof of emails and stuff, maybe we should have that handy for the meeting if that gets.
You know, our requirements are pretty minimal in that way, and you guys exceeded what we require, which is the posting on the, but I mean, I think that obviously it's smart to be as transparent as possibly can.
There was a lot of outreach that was attempted, and it's too bad that.
We get this.
But I think going forward, you want to do as much as you can.
I
You
took
know,
all
as you
their
already-
emails.
Right.
And I told each and every one of them that we would email them directly.
And everybody's welcome to show up on the 3rd and voice any concerns, obviously. Some will be relevant, some won't.
And thank you for
And
saying.
and then also, anybody can go and testify at landmarks. When I think,
What is
calendar.
third?
The full board.
The full board meeting, September 3rd, sorry.
And
didn't mean to
shall
scare
we,
you.
let's end the meeting and.
Yeah.
So,
Jessie. Yeah, we hereby are adjourned, right?
And
Okay.
we finished 4 hours earlier than city planning did.
Oh, okay.
Feel really good about that.
Did you go to the whole thing?
No, but I heard that Dan Karadnick was there basically the whole time from 10 a.m. until 1 a.m. So that's public service.
It's not.
All right, well.
Wouldn't beg you some.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the summer.
You
Okay,
too.
thank you, Michele.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you for your, all for your good work.
I know I sound like. I know I sound like.
It's a challenge.